Good evening. I've been looking into some things and thinking about the state of America today, and I just would like to say a few words on it. Um, Given the fact that the current president's motto or political mantra has been "Make America Great Again," I would just like to list off out of my list of presidents here the presidents in history that I believe bear the are worthy of having the term great in their name. First of all, first of all these are my opinions, and I don't mean to offend anyone. First person, George Washington, 1789 to 1797, the forefather of America, arguably the greatest president in American history, decided not to become a king. Thomas Jefferson, a true ideologue, a genius, Francophile, enough said. 1801, 1809, by the way. Theodore Roosevelt, or Teddy Roosevelt, incredible president, 1901 to 1909, responsible for kind of framing the momentum that would go into the 1920s and the golden age of America. William Howard Taft, a Supreme Court Justice and a President of the United States. One of my favorite quotes from him is, one of my favorite moments from him is he was saying he was so fat that he bought 2 tickets to a football game, but actually the tickets for each seat were on corresponding sides, because he said something like he always wanted to get the best or full angle or view of whatever he was looking at. I butchered that, but he was a Supreme Court Justice and a President of the United States. If that's not a great man, I don't know who is. He was president from 1913 to 1921. Harry S. Truman and FDR, Franklin D. Roosevelt, together from the terms of 1933 to 1953. That's 20 years. Obviously, things like the New Deal legislation, the creation of jobs, the inclusivity of all types of kind of dichotomizing the economy and fragmenting it into this type of beautiful holistic whole for America to rally behind. John F. Kennedy, not just iconic, but incredible in tandem, of course, with Dwight D. Eisenhower from 1953 to 1963. That's 10 years of American iconic kind of golden age. I once did a report in Hong Kong on John F. Kennedy, and apparently he saved a few men from drowning in a boating accident, which I always thought he was magnificent. Dwight D. Eisenhower, one thing I thought interesting about him was his conversation on the military-industrial complex, and I'm going to probably try apply a little bit of that to the state of things today. And then, of course, Ronald Reagan, 1981 to 1989, coined the phrase Reaganomics. On top of being an incredible actor, had an incredible wit and humor, and destroyed inflation with a smile and charm to him, the likes have never been seen in America since. So those weren't very many, right? That was less than 10 people. And it's been almost 30 years. I'm getting old, 36 years, 37 years since we've had, or America has had, a truly landmark great president. So obviously the question is, what the hell happened? What's going on? And I have a few theories. They're going over lots of notions of socioeconomic kind of capitalization and commercialization of the White House, uh, the falling of American exceptionalism, the separation of the divide between not the poor and the middle class, but the middle class and kind of the elites, and then obviously the people who operate outside of those bounds. I'm thinking like Israelites like Netanyahu and very powerful people, Kushner's very powerful. On top of that, I have some anecdotes, but I'm going to start off with the fact that the United States is claiming to have completely obliterated with epic fury uh, Iranian leadership, which I have no doubt is true, but it's kind of like that demonic mythical prophecy, like the Hydra. Every time you cut off a head of a Hydra, it grows two more, right? So the Shaolin monks have this philosophy in ancient China, or they have it to this day, that if you punch a wall or a hard structure continuously, it'll create these micro fragmented kind of fractures, micro fractures in your hands. And if you give it time to heal, they'll come back stronger. So they toughen their kind of hands by breaking them. And my point is, this is what I believe America is doing to Iran through its epic fury and obliteration of the sovereign entity. It doesn't seem like that will or the desire to negotiate or this kind of objective goal of cessation or giving up is in their vocabulary. And I think that the American government has significantly underestimated the will of a foe that has nothing to lose and everything to gain, irrespective of that. And also, technological innovations in today's world make the fight of the Cold War during the Reagan kind of time and that time irrelevant, because we are no longer living in the days of Oppenheimer. We're coming up on almost 75 years since the use of an atomic weapon, as we saw in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And the thing is, today's wars are being fought with information, are being fought with oil, are being fought with economies, geography, and most fundamentally being fought with drones. It's no longer a big punch. It's kind of like the Shaolin monks. It's 1,000 cuts. And drones are pretty scary because they're inexpensive. They're able to be manned by real human beings who can fly them, and they can be produced en masse. There can be a lot of them, and they don't really cause catastrophic damage, but they do cause kind of proximate small damage, and enough of that can take out, you know, an energy grid or a head of state or an airplane, right? So they are kind of a real threat and more acclimated to today's day and age. Basically, the world is so advanced today that innovation in warfare and the use of cost-efficient technologies is available, and America has greatly overestimated, in my opinion, the importance of nukes in fighting warfare. I don't think the next war will be won with nukes. I don't know what it will be won with or how it'll end, but I don't think it's nukes. So we've seen this kind of platitudinous arbitrage of you will not have a nuclear weapon before. We've seen it with the Saddam Hussein years. We've seen it in the past as a raison d'etre, a reason to create conflict, ignite conflict. I fear that there are ulterior motives with the propagation and the lack of cessation of this war on the hands of corporate interest and kind of Israelite Zionistic needs to uh, world domineer, for lack of a better word. Look, I love everyone, but it is it is weird that America is fighting Iran in 2026. I didn't have that on my bingo card. Um, I went to America, the United States of America, 11 years ago as a very promising, kind of excited, opportunistic, young uh, teenager looking to make a name for myself and looking to really see what all the fuss was about. I've always been the most ardent proponent of the United States of America. I've always loved it. I went to boarding school in 2015, leaving Hong Kong. I always never fit in at my British kind of private school in Hong Kong because I was obsessed with basketball and I was obsessed with American culture and YouTube and connecting the world and seeing how American influence dominated over everything, and everything was bigger in America and it was amazing. And I am sad to say that it seems like the things that made America so great before in the past are the exact same things that make it so weak today. So instead of kind of having like this edgy hubris and bigger than life energy that I saw in the past, which was very, thought provoking and kind of inspiring, Today it's the same, but it's just kind of like fast food, like cheap, cheap moments of thrill, cheap moments of happiness, but dwindling, kind of fleeting is how I describe it. I used to get more of an eternal feel of the hope for America, but today I get more of an ephemeral feel for it. And I'm basing this in a few factors, but I have to say it's the lack of accountability from the US's administrative and executive kind of personnel, the lack of accountability, the lack of an acquiescence or acceptance of infallibility, or sorry, fallibility, kind of like this notion of infallibility, accountability, lack of accountability, or unaccountability, infallibility, and the fact that American exceptionalism fundamentally was not designed to coincide with not just the commercialization and private profiteering and private gain of the office of presidency, but the kind of like conquest for the spotlight, the need to be an individualistic state where there is this notion of, I'm not going to say demagogue-esque figures, but there is this notion of like a TV, like the White House has become a TV show, right? The Department of War, these theatrics are very childlike. They're kind of like kid games, but the things that made the JFKs, the George Washingtons, the Lincolns so great is because they were small kind of vestibules or parts in the great constitutional edifice that they had created. And I'm sad to say that, Justice Scalia passed, I think in 2016, 10 years ago. I do not believe his view on American exceptionalism is the type he advocated for or talked about in Congress as to why America was so incredible, due to the fact that it was so slow in its kind of processes. Its American exceptionalism is the same today because it's very fast paced, it's very short wind, and everything seems to be cheap. I just came from the United States of America, and it took me I think 2.5 hours to get on a flight to Zurich. Everyone was leaving in droves. The line was incredible, just ridiculously long. And then when I went back, it took me literally 5 seconds to get into the country, leaving from New York outbound from Europe to. So it is kind of the sentiment of a bigger kind of migration or sentiment, that the American zeitgeist of um, this American dream, anyone can come from anywhere and make it, is perhaps not what we all think. And I can say I am an ardent believer that America, when I first went there, was the land of opportunity. It really was. It was exceptional. I felt a sense of higher calling, higher consciousness, an ability to say, I'm from the greatest country in the world, the most free country in the world, the most kind of thought-provoking, um, false, kind of a country that predicates everything on the notion of falsibility, on questioning beliefs, on this lack of dogma and hubris, or a hubris in the falsifying. But now there's just a hubris in creating subjective truths and narratives. And I don't remember a time that I've turned on a news outlet or a television and seen a specific political party, whether it's the left or the right, or the office of presidency today, or even in the Congress, well, I guess some, but just turning on a television and seeing someone say, I fucked up. Like, I'm sorry, but I made the wrong guy. There is none of that. And if you can't see like potential for wrongdoing, if you can't accept your humanity and realize you're not all knowing, I just think that pride comes very obviously right before a fall, and that's just how it's meant to be. So my point in this video is not to be negative and not to be political. I say that obviously looking as I do and acting and saying some of the most provoking, controversial stuff about a lot of things, but I'm a traveler of the world, and I don't conscribe to a political party because when I was a kid, I was Democratic because I thought being black meant you had to be a Democrat. So I always thought the Republicans were kind of evil, and um, I, I had my viewpoints completely changed. I also was a big advocate for the UK staying in the in the European Union and not doing Brexit, which destroyed me. I have mixed views on that today, um, but ironically, it does make it a stronger case for Brexit being a stupid idea in today's world, with the need for kind of accepting other countries. But the main point is, I became a Republican after uh, Trump won it in 2016 to 2017, I believe, or somewhere around that time, in which I believe I felt that holding on to the narratives of color, or uh, these type of victimized, subjugated, like lower vibrational thoughts about my worth were not getting me anywhere. So I changed, and I today am so detached from it all that I don't care. I don't care.